Good evening, everyone. Calling to order the Town of Hingham Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. First item of business is approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 12th, 2019.
So moved.
Have a second?
I was absent from that meeting, so
Second.
I'm going to
All those in
abstain.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment for items not on the agenda. All right, before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, at the request of the moderator, who is very reasonable in his requests, I'm going to read a letter that was written to us by him yesterday. And I'll read this into the record and it'll become a formal part of our minutes as well. This is from the moderator. Dear members of the Board of Selectmen, it's dated March 18, 2019. Having fielded some questions of late on voting at town meeting, and seeing that a matter concerning voting is on your agenda for tomorrow's Selectmen's meeting, please allow me to make a few observations on this issue. Under our local bylaw, all votes at town meeting are taken in the first instance as voice votes, and the outcome is called by the moderator. That works well for most actions of the meeting and also moves things along. So when do we have a counted vote, and how is that vote taken? Well, if after the voice vote, the moderator is in doubt as to the result, or 7 voters rise and express doubt as to the moderator's call, then we move to a counted vote. Typically, that counted vote is taken as a standing vote, except we will conduct a ballot vote, parentheses, instead of a standing vote, if either the advisory committee or 50 voters promptly call for a ballot vote. Given how long a ballot vote takes, our practice in the case of a counted vote has been not to request a ballot vote, absent compelling reasons to do so. That said, if we are going to have a counted vote after a voice vote, and either the advisory committee or 50 voters call for a ballot vote, seeing compelling reasons to do so, then a ballot vote will be taken instead of a standing vote. Thank you for reading this aloud at your meeting and including it in the public record. Very truly yours, Michael J. Puzo, Hingham Town Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Puzo. Okay. Turning to the agenda, public hearing on the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 6,850 feet of 4-inch and 8-inch gas main in Route 228 East Street and sections of Short Street and Leavitt Street.
These are new. Thank you.
We've passed through it, Mr. O'Hare. We are now, we are on to the matter with respect to National Grid. Okay, what do we have?
We're here to request, respectfully request to install and maintain approximately 6,810 feet, more or less, of 8-inch gas main in East Street, with side streets that are 4-inch. And I didn't want to bore you with the reading. Do you want me to read it as written?
Or you can summarize it.
Okay, so there's the mile of 8-inch on East Street, and there's 4 streets, 4 side streets off of that will be involved in this project.
How far down does it go in layman's terms?
It goes to Summer Street.
Okay.
Okay.
The entire project will go from Short Street, just short of Route 3A, which includes, section of Short Street, section of Leavitt Street, and all of East Street. That's the 228 section. And the side roads, Summer Street, I think it's 188 feet of 155 feet on Summer Street, and Rockwood Road's going to be replaced of 875 feet 4-inch, which roughly goes from East Street up to the approximate entrance of Andrews Isle. And that would be the complete, project.
So this is kind of phase 2 of the 3-phase project to replace all of the gas mains along Main Street.
That's correct, phase
And-
2. Yep.
I know that, Barbara, National Grid has been on the scene in the last few weeks, so when will this work be done? And, do you have any sort of updates about the phase 1 that is still being completed?
I know it's a night job, and I couldn't tell you on
Well, I can fill her in better than,
Thank you, or Harry, yeah, sorry.
right now, they're working to connect all the house services with the main. The main's been replaced and is charged with gas. Now, in order to discontinue the existing main, you have to do all the house services as well as street services that are running off that. They're doing the house services now. I'd expect them to be complete with that by the end of next week, weather permitting. And then they'd go into the side roads, which was approved, Pond Street, Aberdeen, Marshall, Marymount. And once those are done, then you can disconnect the old main. That main will be live and no further work other than, the final road repairs, which we hope to be done by the end of June, meaning curb-to-curb overlay and the new microservice, wearing service to that road. That's our plan for that. Now, as soon as I get through that section, there's an 800-foot section that goes from approximately Free Street to Crooked Meadow. It was approved last year as part of this project. That shouldn't take as long because there's not as many services, it's not as densely populated. Hopefully, we can get that done within, say, the second week of June, so that we can include that on the section that's going to be repaved. If not, we'll have to wait till we do the East Street section, and then East Street will be, hopefully, we're thinking right now, I mean, these are ballpark figures, but hopefully we'll be able to start it prior to July 1st, so that we could have a, summer end date on that project, so that could get paved this year. And we'd run into the problems that we've had a rough road throughout the winter like we did this year.
And that would be night work as well?
Primarily, the side roads will be day work, and they're doing, what they did is, they brought all the house services outside the paved service for the most part, so we could keep 2 lanes of traffic going, and they do the house hookups during the daytime, because they have to shut the gas off in the homes, and make sure the people are home at their, in their houses to do that.
And so, Harry, I'm just trying to think about the work that's going to be going on, and will this phase 2, will any of this be going on simultaneously with the completion of phase 1? I realize there's both gas work and road work, and I'm just trying to think about sort of the totality of it.
Not at this time, no. There's no plans for, in fact, I think the same crew, who's been an excellent crew, they've been very cooperative throughout this whole project. They're going to continue as being the crew that will do phase 2.
Yep. And just for, in terms of phase 2 and what residents, particularly folks who live in that area, what will they expect? Will there be kind of one lane shut down? Will it, how's it going to work?
Well, we had a meeting with Mr. Mayo, Roger, and the 2 chiefs and myself to discuss a detour route for that section between Short Street and Route 3A.
Okay. And is that a detour route for both directions, or will it be one lane?
We're going to attempt to keep 1 lane open. However,
Okay.
that section's a little narrower. If we keep 1 lane open, it'll be northbound traffic heading to Hull. That's what the fire chief requested, so he could get to any calls in that end of the town as quickly as possible. And if there's a situation where we can't keep it open in both directions, there's a couple real narrow areas in there. We may have to close down both directions. Emergency traffic will get through because there'll be road plates on the job if we have to cut a full-width trench across the road. That's not anticipated at this time unless it's a service connection. But we're anticipating we won't have to, but like I say, until we start digging, If you ride that section of road, you'll see a lot of rock on both sides of you. So we're anticipating there could be some ledge that we might have to remove. And being a night job, it's going to be fairly loud for a period of time. We ran into a large section of rock near Jackass Park in the first phase. We weren't anticipating that, although I have heard historians say the reason why Jackass Park got its name is because someone was a jackass for trying to make a park out of a bunch of ledge. We found out that, we verified that fact by running into the ledge when we were trying to put this gas main in. And what the contractor was doing was notifying the residents where they were working in front of on a nightly basis, and they generally shut it down fairly, early, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, with the rock breaking, and then they would, do another task of the installation, so hopefully that won't be a major issue, but we'll see.
And I seem to remember that with Phase 1, there was sort of a period of, notification of neighbors, and in particular, letting people know when the night work would be outside of their home so that they could anticipate when this was going to happen. I recall that last summer, you seemed to be able to, the work seemed to go faster than we had anticipated. So, is it going to be kind of the same way with Phase 2, especially with notification?
Well, there won't be a work stoppage as far as any
Right.
union or company issues. That's been solved. If that didn't happen last year, we would have probably had that completed by early September, and we'd have had that whole job completed, but that is what it is. So I expect this section of the road not being as densely populated. It's going to be probably driven by the ledge under the road. We'll see what happens, and where the exact location of the current gas main is. We were kind of surprised because the gas main, this has been on the ground for 106 years old, for most of it. The gas main was lying underneath, hugging the 20-inch water main, which was kind of remarkable, I thought. I mean, usually there's a pretty good separation, but for a good section of that gas main, it was hugging it, and that was almost 6 feet down. So they have to verify the location of all the services before they start putting any new main, and we'll have a good understanding of what's going on once the test holes have been, dug, or vac-X is what they'll be doing. We sucking the dirt out of the hole and then putting it back in.
What was the condition of the water main that you observed?
It wasn't leaking. For the 20-inch main, if it was leaking, we'd have known it real quick, but I mean, it looked like, it's very difficult to assess a water main, especially from the outside, unless there's any leaks. It was, I believe it was asbestos concrete, that one main that we're looking at. And a 20-inch main, and I'm pretty sure it was 20, and it's pretty solid. They had another problem farther down by Congregational Church where they had a leaking piece of main in there.
Did the water company make any inspections of the main while the roadway was open?
Well, they replaced the piece they had problems with near Arnold Road and Congregational Church and Pleasant Street to get outside the pavement, and they replaced the piece roughly at Arnold Road at the other end, the southern entrance of Arnold Road, and they got that off the road, but they haven't shown up too much at night looking at what's in the ground.
Just,
Okay, go ahead.
sorry, in terms of the work last summer, was there anything that we learned from, that was, remember when we were doing this last year, it was a pretty big effort, and we were talking about things like, notification, traffic. I know there was a question of, having all the details. Did we learn anything from last summer that might cause us to do anything differently this year?
I think the biggest difference, what we've gone to now is finding areas of the road where they can bring the material, what they're gonna use for the night,
Yep.
out to the job site, a load of sand, a load of gravel, dump it in an area where they can clean it up and won't be, hampering traffic or residents, so that instead of running back to the site, the staging area, and creating noise at night, there's always an occasion where they have to go back to the staging area, but that's very, few and far between at this point in time, because, they've got to get used to taking the material out they're going to need, put it on the site, use it on the site until it's gone, and, we're finding areas where they can store their equipment, around the clock, except like on weekends or during holidays, they pick up everything, but, for the nightly work, we're finding areas where they can keep their equipment on the side of the road, so it doesn't disturb, massive amounts of people, it's just generally condensed to the area they're going to be working.
Because we did have that one issue, I think it was for Phase 1, where we had a staging area near Haley Field that ended up being disruptive on a repeated basis for the residents there. So this idea of kind of discrete sites for different pockets of the work, is that?
Well, I think one thing that we're trying to do is figure out if we can find a staging area. But at the same time, I think in terms of context and being clear, we're talking about disruptive work at night, in particular if there's rock removal, and if you've ever heard a whole ram hitting rock at 10 o'clock at night is disturbing. But I don't want to give you the false sense that that's going to go away as part of this project if they do hit a lot of ledge. In addition to that, as you mentioned, a staging area, I think we're working with Mr. Mayor. I think we're trying to see if there's a way to identify not one location, but see if there's
Right.
a way we can identify multiple locations so that we don't burden one particular location very heavily. And we're working with the chief and the fire chief to do that. But at the end of the day, it is without question impossible to say that there won't be some noise during the work. I think the most important thing to bear in mind is the quicker they get the work done, the less disruptive it's going to be. The sooner they can move on to the next spot and reduce that influence on a particular neighborhood for a long period of time.
Right, okay.
I appreciate you're making the effort to find those areas so that, it's disruptive work. If we did it during the day, it would be, we're trying to figure out the time and circumstances that create the least disruption to people. And I appreciate your being sensitive because, June, end of the school year, kids getting to bed. So I think the more that we can be proactive in trying to find ways to minimize disruption and to let people know what to expect, I think that goes a long way. So I'd encourage us to continue taking advantage of opportunities to do that. And I know, Barbara, that National Grid was kind of taking the lead on a lot of that, and we'd look to you folks to take the lead on that as well during Phase 2.
Most of the people from National Grid, Dennis McCaffrey and his staff, they're still involved with this project. Just because of the work stoppage last year, everyone's out straight. So they weren't able to come tonight, but the supervisor that's on the job, he's the same one that, was here when we started this last year. Like I say, I can't speak highly enough about the crew. If there's the trenches are gonna be the trenches, but if we've had any settlement, I want that replaced, they replace it within a day or two at max. They shut their lights off when they're in neighborhoods. They go in circles instead of using their backup people. They're very sensitive to the neighbors, and for the most part, I think they've made a lot of friends because they've really communicated, on a nightly basis with the people who they work in front of the home. So, and they've done an excellent job of compacting trenches, and they're above and beyond the expectations that we could expect on a job of this magnitude.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why the detour isn't down Water Street?
We discussed that. I didn't like sending cars out at the end of Water at 3A so much without a control. If we had a high volume of traffic that night, I'd rather send them out to where there's a control, like the stoplight. And then especially when they're coming, headed south, they'd be crossing over that traffic into Water Street. If we find out the volumes are low, most people that know the area, they probably won't follow the detour route through the square anyway, and they'll probably use Water Street. But those that don't, I think would be safer if we send them out to the control with the light.
I always follow the signs.
What do you anticipate the diverted volume to be?
I'm not sure what the traffic counts are. Usually between, say 7 and, 9 o'clock at night, volumes are fairly high. But once you go past 9 o'clock, I've worked out in this town on many, many nights for many, many years. And traffic between 9 and 10 generally dies right down to a very low volume.
Is the detail coverage confined to the area of construction?
No, it isn't.
Where's it gonna be?
We generally have, we're gonna have road closed, arrows up on the major roads like, East Street at 3A and Kilby at 3A and Summer at 3A. We'll have a regular cone and an unlidded detour arrow at Rockwood Street. So we plan on putting a detail roughly at East Street, at Summer Street to catch any stragglers breaking through the detour route and turning around at that point. And then we'd have a detour, a detail officer probably at Levitt at Short Street with a detour arrow at Middle at Main. Now that's, if you envision the entire section of work from Short Street to 3A, how we'll be able to break it down into sections, like from Short Street to approximately Levitt Street would be section 1. It's a small section we probably get through in probably 10 days for main installation, but we have detour routes where we could send them down Winter Street or, use Spring Street for a period of time just to get through that section. And then from Levitt Street down to Summer Street would be the major section, and that's where we'll probably be slowest, because that's where we expect to encounter the most amount of ledge. And then once we get by, say, Kilby and Summer Street, then it would be the final leg would be going from there down to 3A, and that would be an easy enough section to, detour around. But we'll have 2 detail officers with a crew, probably with, and then we'll probably have 2 others, unless we need more, which we'll see how things go, at both ends of the job wherever we're working, with probably, cruisers with blue lights.
And did you talk with the chief about the fireworks, 4th of July, how this would work during that period?
We'd be shut down during that period, so, it wouldn't affect any type of traffic as far as, the 4th of July goes.
Okay.
Can the department handle the demand on the details?
They haven't had a problem up to now.
That's a yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would actually be, yeah. I think actually the night detail work helps, because there's a little less demand on us, and we've done all right filling the Main Street job.
I had 2 other questions when you were done.
Obviously, this is gonna go right by the house, so I'm a little more in tune with
We were anticipating.
what you're doing here, so. Are you gonna modify the route as you make progress down the street? And how many feet per night do you anticipate in terms of progress in those non-ledge areas?
I'm thinking probably 100, maybe a little bit more than 100 feet a night.
Okay.
That's main installation. What they're doing as far as house services, they're doing anywhere from 3 to 5 a day on house services, so that, that goes rather quickly in comparison.
So the plan is to get this done by June and then repave from?
Oh, we'll be starting this section, well, the section we're on now, to get it done by, June.
This is new. This
The
is
current
July.
section. The new section would be, we're looking optimistically for, 3 months' worth of work.
I think we need where's Amy? I think we need a little, little coverage in the journal on this, so people know it's coming.
But will this roadway be repaved in its entirety before the snow flies in the fall?
That's what we're shooting for. To say we're going to, and then something might, if we run into ledge and we're breaking rock, 10 feet a night, how bets could be off. If there's no ledge, probably have that paved by October 1st.
Which direction are you gonna start?
Paving?
Yeah, you're gonna go south or north?
I really haven't given this section of thought too much. Would probably head south, because we'll be going back towards the plant where, whichever plant supplies us. We don't want to run our trucks over existing fresh mix.
Sure. Questions from the public?
I had 2 more questions.
sorry.
I was trying to wait my turn over here. Barbara, can you take me through how the switchover works? So Harry said the new pipe has been charged with gas. We're completing the hookups for phase one to the homes. I just want to understand kind of the safety procedure that goes into, dismantling one pipe and connecting to the live gas in the new pipe.
I've actually always also wondered that myself.
No.
I honestly have never
Thought
been
it was gonna be a
part
dumb
of-
question,
I know,
so-
no, actually, they leave the old pipe live until,
The new main is in the ground. It's all connected with valves to the old main at both ends. And of course, they're both charged this time because everyone still is, or not everyone now, but everyone was still hooked up to the old main. That's what was feeding their homes in some of the side streets. And now what they're doing all the housing services. As they do them, the old service connected to the old main is being discontinued. The new main is being charging the house now with the gas. And now they're gonna do that with a series of side streets, the ones I mentioned earlier. Once that's complete, once they're all online with the new gas main, then they shut down the old main, disconnect it and abandon that. And they'll be abandoned in place, which I don't think anyone will see it because it's underneath the 20-inch water main.
Yeah. So, so there are sort of parallel pipes.
Yep.
Some people are still feeding off the old main. People will gradually connect to the new main. Once that's complete, there's a way to then just shut down, because now you have no more connections in the old main.
Right.
right, that's correct.
Okay. And then, I know we talked about this in connection with phase one, and I think we had residents in here at that time that were just concerned about kind of the cleanup and the replacement. I know the project has taken longer so that the look of some of the places where you stored pipe and stuff is kind of messy. So I'm just wondering, again, I think we made some promises to the residents, particularly who came in, that the National Grid would restore all that to the, essentially the way it was when the project started. So I'm just assuming that that's kind of the next phase of this. We'll restore the roadway, but we'll also restore the environment around it.
We've had some discussions about that already prior to start working this winter, last couple of weeks ago. But what we're going to do is going to see how quickly things get done. And if we don't get that paved till, say, the end of June or middle of June, all the shoulder work like lumen and seeding
Yep.
won't take place till the fall because you need water to grow grass. And if we lumen seed it in the end of June and it doesn't get water regularly, there's going to be spots where it's not going to come through.
Yep.
So we think the best case to do this is just, he's going to hydro seed it. He's going to lumen it, he's going to hydro seed it all. And we do that, at the end of the summer. We expect all that grass to come through to fruition, starting in the fall and completing fully grassed and looking nice by the following spring.
Okay, that's good to know, because we may end up getting some questions on that once that project concludes, so thank you. I'm all set.
I'd ask that you give attention to Pantry Hill with respect to the roadway there. I've talked to you about that before, and I see it starting to deteriorate, and I don't know whether this added traffic is going to accelerate that. So just have that in your mind. Questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Why don't you go over there, Mr. Doherty, and identify yourself on the mic, and that way there the folks at home can hear what you're asking.
Stan Doherty, 18 Leavitt Street. Two questions about communication. So when I want to find out what the status or the issues are or how much progress, so I want to pull information from you, right? Where do I go?
Well, you can call me, or, you'll get a number from the gas company as well. Dennis McCaffrey would be the spokesperson for National Grid for this area. You'll be seeing crews out in front of your house. They'll be probably coming to your house, knocking on the door. There's going to be many means of communication. We're going to have message boards up. We'll have 3 of them on this job. One starting at Short Street at Middle, and then we'll have 2 down at the northerly end where one at Kilby at Summer and one at Summer at East Street. Notifying about the night work. You'll be getting notifications at your house by the National Grid and probably door hangers by the contractor. If they cut in front of your driveway where they got to lay the main down, they'll be able to place so you can have access to your home. Before they have to go into your house as far as turning your new service on, they'll set an appointment up with you so that you can be home while this is taking place, so they can light your pilots and do what they have to do.
Thank you. So it's mostly telephone.
Yeah, well, yeah, or, with this crew that's been out there, they've been conversing regularly with the residents along the path of their work. I mean, sometimes they're there 2 or 3 nights because of different logistical reasons why they didn't move very quickly, but, yeah, I mean, there'll be people around. If you have to call, you can call me at my office, and I'll have an update.
So it sounds like, would you be an escalation point if we perceive there's some issues or things like that? Or, I just ask because we had some gas work done in front of our house, and we still have 10 feet of gravel that was never cleaned up or fixed, so we kept calling and nothing, right?
And what number is that?
18 Leavitt. You see it, just drive right, oh yeah, 10 feet of gravel still sitting there. Yeah. So anyway, so that was just it. So pull information would be by phone and boards.
Yeah.
And as long as someone communicates an escalation number to us, I think that would keep everybody, I'd feel better. Let's put it that way. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you'll get a number from National Grid. You can call directly to them if you have, any issues, but other than that, if you don't get any way with them, you contact me.
Thank you.
And the ultimate escalation number is this guy. So call the town administrator's office and, we'll take care of it, and hopefully we can get this gravel moved as part of this cleanup project, right?
After you've tried the others.
Sorry about that.
Anybody else? Okay.
Paul, before we kind of wrap this up, we brought a map of the town, and it shows the replacement of the gas main in this town. And I strongly believe that we have more plastic to replace gas main in this town than any other town in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, except maybe one. And they had a tragedy up there that
Compelled. That you
drove
accelerate.
the replacement of their current gas main, but that wasn't the entire town. Our town, once we get Main Street done, and if anyone wants to go up and look at this map, there's only, will be 98% plastic, all replaced.
Wow.
Nice.
So it's really decreased the gas leaks, I was checking 150 permits a year on gas leaks, down to about 5 or 6 a year.
Which means the disruption in the roadways is going to be minimized.
Yeah. Yeah,
In harmony with our road building, I should add.
yeah,
That's
that's
key.
right.
We appreciate the cooperation of National Grid with,
Certainly.
I know when we accelerated our road building, that was, that had implications for National Grid, and we appreciate the partnership.
Certainly pass that on.
Anybody else? Before we get to the vote, I'd like to recognize the work of Harry and Roger with respect to the Route 3A submittal to the DOT. It's my understanding, and Roger, you can fill in the blanks, that you've been selected to present the efforts that the town undertook with respect to the road diet and the 25% design submittal for Route 3A as it travels along the harbor. And I just have to applaud you for that work, because I think that to have that kind of work recognized by the state is significant. So, on behalf of the board, I really thank both of you for that. That was a pleasure to work with you on that. And, I'm sure you're going to see it brought home in fine form. But it's nice to see the town used as an example for other communities as to what we're capable of doing when we put our minds to it.
For those who are wondering, we've been invited to present an abstract to the Innovation Conference, how that MassDOT holds in their academic bodies that show up, and sort of a how-to, and a thing that I talked to Mr. Healy about, the thing that's not only the technical aspects of the project, which are great in terms of what we've introduced to the project, but it's also a opportunity that they're looking to understand and learn from us in terms of how-to, in terms of public dialogue, discussion, public relations, how to properly advance a project through a public process, a collaborative public process. And as you know, we work closely with Hull, Cohasset, and of course, the town of Hingham, the the 3A task force, which is, we're lucky, what I consider to be sort of the A-team of
Absolutely.
committees, not because the chair is on it. There happens to be there are
But that
other
doesn't
members that
hurt.
are real good besides him. But we really, we've got a great team in our office, and overall, the team is great, and we really feel honored to be selected for that presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know that the town of Hingham traveled to Hull 4 different times and met with the Hull Board of Selectmen, repeatedly had public forums, spoke to the concerns raised by the residents of Hull, modified what we did so that this was a collaborative success, not just on the part of Hingham, but also the town of Hull. And, your engineering team and you guys, that was a great effort, so thank you.
It's fantastic.
Would you like a motion?
If you would,
Okay.
thanks.
Oh, gosh, it's a long one.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 6,850 feet of 4-inch and 8-inch gas main in Route 228, East Street and sections of Short Street and Leavitt Street. Gas main will originate at approximately number 8 Short Street at the beginning of the gas main and continue under the paved surface of Route 228, East Street and sections of Short Street and Leavitt Street to completion at approximately number 227 East Street, just before Elizabeth Lane, connecting into the existing 8-inch gas main. This gas main will replace an existing 4-inch and 6-inch bare steel decayed main that is approximately between 91 and 106 years old, and a 1.5-inch bare steel main that is approximately 105 years old. Engineering Department will be recommending to the Board of Selectmen as part of this grant of locations that the work hours on Route 228, East Street and sections of Short Street and Leavitt Street to be between the hours of 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. only, Sunday through Friday. In addition, 2 weeks prior to the start of construction, we will require variable message boards to be set up at project limits. In addition, as part of this project, the request includes the following. Number 1, to install and maintain approximately 875 feet of 4-inch gas main in Rockwood Road. This gas main will originate from the new 8-inch main in Route 228, Short Street, Leavitt Street, and East Street, and continue under the paved surface of Rockwood Road to completion at number 12. This gas main will replace an existing 4-inch coated steel decayed main that is approximately 60 years old. Number 2, to install and maintain approximately 155 feet of 8-inch gas main in Summer Street. This gas main will originate from the new 8-inch main in Route 228, Short Street, Leavitt Street, and East Street, and continue under the paved surface of Summer Street to completion at the existing 6-inch gas main near pole number 59-40. This gas main will replace an existing 6-inch bare steel decayed main that is approximately 89 years old. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works as outlined in the letter dated March 7th, 2019.
Second.
Before we vote, Harry, with respect to the water main, did you form an opinion as to the age?
It would have to be approximately 100 years old as the gas main.
And the water company is aware that you're doing this work?
Yes, they are.
Is that kind of material used in today's technology with respect to replacing water mains?
I don't know if it would currently be used.
Asphalt cement, I'm sorry, asbestos cement pipe is no longer used.
When did that go out of production or use?
40 years ago.
So we've got a 100-year-old piping system, and they stopped using that material 40 years ago. To your knowledge, did the water company make any inspections of the joints while the road was open?
Not as president of the job, no, they weren't.
And you were there on a regular basis?
For a good part of the early part of the evening. I didn't stay all night, but
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Not at this time.
These are two.
Chipotle Mexican Grill of Colorado LLC, change of manager. Anybody here for that? Step up, please.
How are you tonight?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for being here. Good night. Thanks for coming, folks.
Okay. Who might you be, kind sir?
My name is Tyler Spencer. I am the general manager restaurateur of the Chipotle at Derby Street.
All right, Mr. Spencer, what are you asking us to do?
A change of manager for the liquor license for the restaurant.
Would that be you?
That would be me.
Why don't you give the community a little background on your qualifications to be the manager of the establishment that has a liquor license in the community?
Where I've worked with the company for over 5 years. I have a bachelor's degree in business management, Serve Safe certified, tip certified.
Okay.
Is it mainly beer?
Yeah, it's 100.
It's only beer? You know, because you do have, particularly in that location, that's a hot spot for middle school, high school
Most
age
definitely.
kids. So, you know, I'm assuming you have a heightened awareness about IDs, checking IDs and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the law is that only 18-year-olds and up can serve alcohol too. So, I mean, even if it's a question, we've had communication about like friends serving their own friends underage as well, but making sure that, I mean, we only have the managers who are trained on the identification, like viewing IDs and stuff, are the only ones who can be like the final say for serving. It's very low with like what people buy because it's only for dining in. So with the amount of volume we have, it's usually taking out. So I mean, we don't sell much beer very often.
I'm good.
And have you been the manager at any other establishment, or have you been 5 years in Hingham?
Well, we have 4 levels of management, so I've worked my way up through. Started at the one in Braintree, South Shore Plaza, and
Yep.
then been in Hingham for 3-ish years. But
Okay. And do all the Chipotles hold liquor licenses?
not
or is
all.
it-
It's dependent on location, availability of licenses when we open restaurants.
Okay.
I just spoke with Glenn, and there's not been any problems down here.
Oh, good. Thank you for doing that.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the request of Chipotle Mexican Grill of Colorado LLC, DBA Chipotle Mexican Grill, for a change of manager from David Jamerson to Tyler Spencer, subject to the approval of the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, Mr.
Thanks for
Spencer.
coming in, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hingham Fire Department.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. What do you got?
So, I have a request to repurpose some of our FY 2019 capital. So, little explanation for it. We requested and were awarded $32,000 for FY capital to purchase 2 Lucas devices, which are automated CPR devices. At the time, we were also applying for and successfully received a FEMA Assistance to Firefighter grant. That grant allowed us to actually purchase 3 of the Lucas devices and 3 of a ambulance load system device that actually loads the stretcher into the back of the ambulance that we had not requested from capital, but we were able to purchase all of that with a total cost of the entire grant of $164,000. Now, the way that the assistant to firefighter grants work, based on our town size, we're required to pay a 10% copay for that. So we basically, the federal government kicked in $146,000, and we had to kick in the copay for it. So we used that money from the FY19 capital to cover our copay. Since then, so we currently have a balance in the capital account of $13,897.90 from the original appropriation of $32,000. So I actually have two requests in front of you tonight. The first is that because when we wrote the grant, believe it or not, the pricing actually got cheaper, and the cost to install the devices in the back of the ambulance, the quote that we had received was, we used the high figure on it because we didn't know until they actually started taking them apart and figuring out exactly what it was going to cost. So the bottom line is currently we have a surplus of $9,287 in our federal account. We have been told that FEMA allows us to spend that on other fire equipment if we want, as long as we do a 10% cash match on it. So I basically need to spend $900 to get $9,000. So that's my first request, is that we would like to repurpose the money from the capital to go towards that other copay. And the reason I'm coming, because, under the capital, I could spend the money for the Lucas, for the first time, because that was what we were funded for, but now I'm asking to buy other fire equipment with that money. The second request we have is, unfortunately, we've had a roof leak issue down at Station 2, North Hingham. We've been trying unsuccessfully for a while with our roofing companies to repair it, and I would basically say that it's been putting a Band-Aid on the problem. We've been told that it's on one of the flat sections of the roof, and there's an HVAC unit above it, so we've been told the only way to really fix it is to bring a crane in, remove the HVAC unit, and then put down a new flat roof. We have a cost of $8,000 to do that. We actually requested for FY20 capital to fund that, and unfortunately COC has deferred us on that. We've also sustained a little bit of damage to some insulation because of the leak, and to be honest with you, we have questionable things there. So what we'd like to do is I'd like to repurpose the remaining almost $13,000 from this grant to repair the roof, to test to make sure that there isn't mold from the water that we've gotten in from the roof leak, and to repair some of the ceiling tiles and the insulation that have been damaged because of the water leak.
And do you have a estimate or so?
I have an estimate for the roof leak. I've received 3 estimates for the mold testing. That's probably going to be right around $3,500 for that. The roof leak damage is about $8,000, and then the other damage is smaller things, replacing the insulation, some new pipe wrap in certain cases, and it's actually the drop ceiling. So all that stuff is more materials than actual installation cost.
Okay. And I see capital approved both requests.
Yes, I'm sorry, I did not, I should have mentioned that. Yes, I've already discussed this with Tom. Tom has okayed this. I have gotten the approval from capital, so you guys are step 2 in the process for repurposing.
So part of the reason I asked that is, did you discuss with capital what you might acquire with the $9,000? Did they care whether this is part of your capital plan?
They didn't ask for that. They just said that, we actually discussed this going back when I was discussing my FY20 capital with them, but I wasn't an official request because we were still purchasing some of the equipment under the grant. And they honestly said that we got all of the equipment that we needed, but because we were successful in getting the grant, then they would happily support any recommendation to repurpose that to get additional fire equipment, So, no, I did not actually mention to them. And to be perfectly honest with you, we don't know exactly what we're going to get yet. I do have a salesman coming in on Friday to, show us a new imaging camera that we could use on some fire prevention type of stuff. But we haven't actually decided what we're going to purchase yet. The main reason that I'm kind of trying to fast track this a little bit is to fix the roof leak, because I want to, take care of that before we get any more damage. So.
Okay.
I would just mention for the benefit of the public that that the reason the chief is here is that anytime we want to repurpose capital dollars, we have to do that in a public process. Anytime that we have to move money within a budget, again, there's a public process to this. So, you know, while these dollar amounts, you know, in particular, you know, $900, you know, may seem small given the scale of our budget, as a municipal entity, we have to, all of these financial transactions have to go through a public approval process. So that's kind of why the chief is here tonight for these matters. And I have no questions about the information you provided was very helpful.
Yep.
What's an automated CPR device?
So it's, there's many nicknames for it. It's actually, one used to be, a brand name used to be Thumper, you know, but think of it as instead of using a person to do CPR, we're going to connect a device that actually kind of circles over the person's chest, and it does CPR automatically. I will say, just as a side note, we purchased 3 of these devices, and the first one went in service, or both of them went in service on our ambulances back in, it was late September, early October, and about 3 weeks later, we successfully used one to save a person's life.
Wow.
So it made an immediate impact right off the bat.
Do you mark the saves on the device?
No, didn't actually think about that.
Bad idea.
Good, yeah.
You know, we get a lot of suggestions. Hey, I was also wondering about
good for morale.
the new truck.
Yes, the ladder truck. So our, the way the process works is that we have 4 individuals, Deputy Luchance is heading up the mission because he's been involved with it from the get-go. They're actually going out to Wisconsin a week and a half from now to do what is considered the final on the truck. So they literally look at every single bolt to make sure that it's exactly as what we ordered. That being said, we've been told the truck will, as soon as they clear that, then they will deliver the truck to Massachusetts to our dealer in a sense that we're buying it through. They will have it in April. It will take probably about a month there to add a couple of additional things, some radios. They do some other things down there. And then we will see it in Hingham probably late April, early May. And it's going to take us probably about 2 months of training on it
Yeah, that's
and
what I was
everything
gonna
else
ask.
before we actually put it in service.
And so does the manufacturer help you with that training?
They do. They provide some, and then we're also going to contract for other training because some of it, the manufacturer will really kind of cover training on how to use the truck itself.
But all the
But it's going to
customized
change
equipment.
our operations because it's a different type of truck. And we're also going to bring in some special instructors for additional training on driving it because it's a bigger truck than what we're used to and all that type of stuff. But yeah, the manufacturer will show us all the bells and whistles about the truck, but then we're actually going to hire a couple of other outside consultants to do further training.
Are you going to invite us to come see it when it comes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to like try to park it
Sideways.
perpendicular in the...
No, there's no way.
I'm told this is not one of the ones with the back.
No,
Yeah.
it's not a tiller truck.
Kramer.
Do you need a CDL for that?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you need a CDL for that?
No, you do not. Actually, Massachusetts general law does not require CDLs for firefighters. Technically, the law, I believe, is written, though, that it says that you may respond to the scene of a fire without a CDL, but it really doesn't cover how to get the truck back afterwards, so it's just been a kind of long-standing, well, you can drive it there, but you can't really drive it back. But no, Massachusetts doesn't require it.
How many firefighters are going to be qualified to drive that?
That's a good question. We know that there's going to be a limited number. I think it's probably going to be about 8. You know, and we're spent those. So we're gonna, in the fire service, we have different levels of training. We have what we'd call awareness, which, you know, is the most basic level, then operations, and then technical. And each of those expands as we go. So everyone in our department will have a minimum of awareness level operation and everything to do with the truck, awareness, preferably operational level, but there will be some individuals that will be assigned to it that will receive extra training on it to kind of bring them to a higher level. And that's part of that is the driver training and also operation of it, so.
Is this vehicle capable of being operated by just one individual, or is there going to be, do you need a tandem?
No, you do not need a tandem to drive the truck. But any of our trucks like this, even the engines, the more people you have, the easier it becomes to operate it when you get it on scene. But to physically drive it, the only truck is what Tom was mentioning that has the tiller that actually requires 2 people. This can be driven by one person safely. You know, is it recommended? No.
Who's the manufacturer?
It's Pierce Manufacturing, yes.
I saw one of those in the St. Patrick's Day Parade this weekend in Abington.
Was it Abington's truck
I
or?
don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe Randolph.
Okay, because Abington has a truck, theirs is different, theirs has the bucket on the back of the truck, ours is gonna be in the front of the truck. It's a different type, where the ladder is actually mounted, is different.
And you have the gun?
Yes, that, on ours, it will be up front. So on theirs, it's, theirs is what's called a mid-mount, so the ladder itself mounts in the middle of the truck and then goes backwards. Ours, the ladder mounts in the back and then goes forward. So, but they had height issues in their station and a couple of other restrictions that they couldn't actually go with the rear mount, which is probably preferable. But
So that'll handle all the buildings, Avalon and Alliance and Shipyard?
yes, it
Good.
will.
Good. Audience, questions? Hearing none. Take a motion.
Make a motion to approve the request of the Hingham Fire Department to repurpose FY 2019 capital funds in the amount of $13,897.90 to purchase fire gear and for repairs and mold testing at North Fire Station, Station 2.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, hold on a second. Mr. Chairman, can I just make a quick statement? You know, we heard a lot of stuff from the chief tonight, managing fire stations, managing fire apparatus, all designed to save people's lives. Managing staff, large staff. That's a lot of responsibility that the chief does well. And I just wanted to point that out. Saving people's lives is not a trivial matter. And this department does it well, I think second to none. So.
Agreed.
Here, here.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chief.
Chief.
Thank you.
Chairman, can I address a procedural issue?
No, Mr. Bedoni, you may not.
Will that be for the entire meeting or another?
We're completing our business. We have several other items to go. I want to treat you with the utmost respect, sir, but I'm reluctant to engage without our counsel present, and that is about as far as I'm willing to go.
So I'm
So,
only asking that agenda items do actually be called, so these citizens can speak. I don't seek to speak.
thank you, Mr. Bedoni. So at this point, we're going to revote non-school budgets. What do we have here, Tom?
So, if you'll remember, several weeks ago, the Board of Selectmen voted the town budgets. That was then transferred responsibility over to the AdCom, as is our process, and advisory voted a slightly different budget. So this is an opportunity for the Board of Selectmen to consider what advisory did and to take action as you see fit.
Could you walk through the changes, Tom?
Sure. So the legal budget, if you remember, in my original presentation to you, I had recommended that we add $25,000 to the legal budget, and as a first step towards an incremental correction of what is, in essence, a structural deficit annually. So advisory heard that and decided to make that change, which this board had decided not to do at your earlier discussion. The police, at my request on the second meeting, the police department budget had requested a payroll overtime of, a total payroll budget of $5,757,622, and advisory chose to reduce the total payroll budget, specifically the overtime portion of that budget, by $30,000, and voted a $5,727,622 payroll line item. So that reduced that by $30,000. That was against my recommendation. My recommendation had that, I think, as number 3 on my priority list, and I recommended that amount be funded. I've spoken with the chiefs, and I say the chiefs, the deputy chief and the police and Chief Olson, and while disappointed, they feel that there are ways to survive this type of cut to their projected overtime. It's not perhaps the best budgeting process, but it's something that if needed, they could make it pass. I don't know if you want to hear from the chief or not.
Chief, will there be any essential services or training that will be reduced as a result of this budget reduction?
I'll just have to make it so it doesn't, we'll put a strain on somewhere, but I'm sure we'll get by without it. I think I was a little bit more disappointed that I wasn't notified at all.
I wanted to ask, was there any notification to either you or Tom that this was being contemplated?
No, I heard actually I had been texted that night after the vote occurred. Had I known this was going to be discussed, I would have been at advisory, likely with the chief to at least explain our thought processes.
You know, every year after town meeting settles, we typically kind of do a postmortem on our budget process, and I would hope that we could just, I think, you know, by and large, the budget process worked very well this year. I think when you have meetings going on, you know, at the same time in different rooms, the communication becomes a bit more of a challenge. So I hope we can take this as an opportunity to talk about, you know, how do we do that going forward? Because my sense is that both of you were a little bit surprised.
Yes.
And would have appreciated the notice in order to make your case to the committee. So I would like to view it as a learning opportunity on what we could maybe do differently next year so that
Agreed.
so that it doesn't happen.
Agreed. Yeah.
Certainly one way to look at it.
Glass half full.
Love it.
Who's the liaison?
The liaison on this they were three: Eric Haskell.
That's enough.
Aaron Kelly.
Aaron Kelly, and I knew Aaron, I couldn't think of the,
Victor?
no, Ed Sheen, Daveline Cooper, I'm sorry, Daveline Cooper, that's right.
And what's the uptick in capital? Was there a particular
Yeah.
project that was going to, or is just?
You know which project it was, Michelle?
It's going to town hall capital, to the sort of general account to maintain the building.
Okay.
So if I look at it with kind of the municipal additional requests, I think where we were at about $125,000 when we voted the budget. So this takes it down to like $95,000. So the good news is that we've got $95,000 of new initiatives that we can put forward. So I guess I'll leave it at that since I'm being
Man,
glass
you
half
are
full
being
kind of
like
girl tonight.
so. Can I have those rosy shades you got going on down there?
No green visor, rosy
Oh,
shades.
okay. Yeah. You can't use your green visor every night. Yeah. Look, I guess part of my reaction is this is advisory committee's budget that advisory committee recommends to town meeting, and advisory committee's got to feel good about that recommendation. You know, it's no secret that we've struggled to, over time, fully fund legal services. You know, I spoke about that when we considered it and when we advised for the cut there. You know, we had sort of had this incremental plan to move forward over a 5 to 10 year time horizon to try to, you know, move toward what the legal expenses ultimately seem to come in at. You know, we're a highly regulated operation with a lot of moving parts, and you know, I think it's in the best interest of the town to be fully advised by legal counsel. You know, I guess, and maybe it's over a period of time that we develop this sort of level of trust, but you know, with respect to police and fire, you know, I don't ever think that police and fire look at that overtime line item as a license to, you know, as a license to just hire up to that number. I think regardless of that amount, I think both chiefs manage their staff to the essential services that they need to provide to the community. So, I mean, you know, it's a little bit of, to me, potato, like, these dollars in my mind are going to get spent. They're probably going to get spent out of legal, and you know, I think the chief will do his very best to manage within the budget that he has. But I think that we wouldn't have asked for it if we didn't think that it was probable that that was the overtime budget that the chief needed. So I'm certainly willing to be advised by the advisory committee, and we'll go along with the recommendation, but I think there was a rationale for our initial proposal.
My view on this is that the opportunity for either the town administrator or the chief of police to speak to the need for this extra dough was denied to them in the process, and that's problematic for me. I see this amount of money as one serious bad night in the world of police and fire. I've spoken to the town administrator, I've spoken to the chairman of the advisory committee to voice my concerns, and obviously I've spoken to the chief about this. I'm hopeful that this won't repeat itself going forward in the future. I don't like this to be a vote I'm being required to take on the police department at this stage in my tenure on the board, however.
I hear you.
Would you like a motion?
Sure.
So, Tom, I see on our vote list that there are a couple of, is this?
Yes, so
Okay.
Michelle might have a new vote list for you.
I think so. Okay, so I'll just, yep, okay, I'll start out. I'll make a motion to recommend the total FY20 legal services budget in the amount of $257,000.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye. So do we have to recommend police now?
Yeah.
I recommend police department, do we have to do each number? I recommend police department payroll overtime, $460,406 for a total payroll of $5,727,000, $622.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye. I recommend an expenses line item for the police budget of $385,750. $385,750. I don't know why I'm having this problem.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye. Don't make me do this. Somebody else do it.
I will make a motion to recommend the capital outlay budget in the amount of $2,279,535.
Second. I jinxed you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It's good, these are our last budget votes for a while.
Oh, I'm just tired. So do we have to do the, so that, we don't have to do total non-school or?
Yeah, those were the differences
Okay.
from what you had done before.
Okay,
So
all right,
you're good.
great,
Okay,
thank God.
moving on. Contract with Sealcoating Inc.,
Microsurfacing.
DBA Indus. What do we
So-
have here, Tom?
A little bit of a mea culpa first.
Yeah, nice.
Mr. Fernandez was here a half an hour ago, and we probably could have done this then,
Oh, Roger. Sorry.
had I understood what he was whispering to me. I apologize.
No problem at all. No problem. So this is a issuance of a new contract, although the apparent low bidder is a contractor that we have worked with in the past, successfully, I might add. And this contract is a contract that we utilize as part of our road building efforts, microsurfacing and random crack sealing. The crack sealing, I think most of us have seen, it's those black lines that you see in the road. It's part of a preventive maintenance that we undertake on roadways to, prolong its life, for the road's life. And the microsurfacing itself, an example of that is right outside our window. Central Street was microsurfaced, and Main Street, as we discussed earlier, at some point will be microsurfaced as well. So in any case, we issue this contract in accordance with Chapter 149, 3039M. We received a bid from Sealcoating Inc., DBA Indus. They changed their name to Indus. The contract value is $637,579, and that's a unit-based contract, which means that depending on the amount of material that we placed, we will be billed accordingly. We don't anticipate that it would be over that amount in any given year. The contract also has a clause that allows for future extensions, something that this board has heard before. Those extensions would require the Board of Selectmen's approval, so this is an annual contract with the option to extend up to 2 additional years, which is allowed by law. And again, we've worked with this company in the past, and without any issues, we're satisfied with the quality of work and their responsiveness. So we offer that recommendation to the board to enter into contract.
Are you seeing an uptick in the cost of these kind of building materials?
We have, as a matter of fact, I didn't provide a copy to everyone, but what I did is and we do this, we try to do this with all our contracts, but we basically look at where we were going all the way back to 2013 and where we are today in 2019, and we looked at the most prevalent or the most common applications of the contract that we use, and those ranged anywhere from, since 2013, anywhere from a 23 to a 29% increase from 2013.
And when you have this extension clause, do you renegotiate the unit price at that point?
No, the law doesn't allow for that. It's good in this sense, is they've got to honor their bid numbers or their item numbers. As you can see in the annual escalation, a lot of times, most of the time, we come back if we're satisfied with the service with a recommendation to extend, because those values are locked in for 3 years. And if you consider, and it's been more than this, as you know, over the last couple of years, but if you consider even a modest 3% escalation, if we can get 2 more additional years, we're saving the town 6% on the contract.
I appreciate your management of the cost and also periodically opening it up for bids. I know that that's a tricky balance to do, and I appreciate the way you balance those things.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Quick one. So micro-surfacing is something short of like a full repaving?
It is, yep.
And it just allows us to continue, it's sort of that tiered approach to road repair, right?
Yep. And we started using this process about a decade ago.
Time flies.
Time flies. With a tremendous amount of success. And one thing I think we've talked to the board about is how we've seen other communities begin to take the same approach. To Harry's credit, so 10 years ago, he said, hey, let's try this. And so we've come up with a process that includes crack sealing, a leveling, and then a micro-surfacing. And we've done it on some pretty borderline roads, Abington Street, for example, being one. If you drive down Abington Street, we did that 5-6 years ago, and it still looks unbelievable. And if you probably don't remember, but we do, how bad it was. And so we thought if we could get 7 years out of it, the cost benefit was there. It made sense to do it this way. And that's what we do. We measure the cost benefit in the application. And we're at that period, and it still looks like it wants to keep going. And notwithstanding, when they cut the road, we're going to put that same application back. And so we've had some tremendous success.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure working with you, man.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
All right, take a motion.
I move that we sign a contract with Sealcoating, Inc., DBA Indus for micro-surfacing and random crack sealing by fiber reinforcement method as outlined in the bid package titled Micro 19.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Rob.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Roger. Sorry to hold you up.
no worries.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Apologize, you being facetious, ladies and gentlemen. Nomination of Inspector of Animals.
This is an annual appointment required by the state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to nominate an inspector of animals. We are nominating Leslie Badger.
You were in the running, I heard.
God help us.
You came this close. Leslie, Chief's here, Leslie and Ted, Leslie does a tremendous job, right? All over town, Bearcoat Park, just, you know, she's on social media. I think the town really views her as a resource on a number of animal-related issues, so it's an honor, really, to make this appointment.
Would you like a motion?
Please.
I'll make a motion to nominate Leslie Badger as the Inspector of Animals for the town of Hingham.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I see a possible vote here to permit extension on 51, 55.
That can be
South Street?
removed from the agenda.
Okay, so we're done with tonight's business. Selectmen reports. Michelle,
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thomas,
Nothing, thank you.
Karen.
You're going to talk about this afternoon?
No, you can.
That's it.
No, you guys, you do it. You spoke.
It's announcements.
Oh, all right. The three of us were at Barbara Farnsworth's retirement party. Barbara is the long-serving Director of Elder Services and Chair of the Council on Aging, and she is appreciated across the town of Hingham and across really the Commonwealth for her leadership in providing elder services to the folks here. Mary and I, was it last year, went to the Volunteer Appreciation Lunch, which is just a fantastic event. You know, it's kind of the community within the community. It's a warm and inviting environment in the Elder Services Center, and we'll miss her. The other thing I guess I'd point out about Barbara when I was thinking about her today is she's not only fantastic at what she does in elder services, but she's a team player here in Town Hall. I think she's an outstanding department head in terms of being collegial and collaborative with our team here in Town Hall that provides, you know, services to everybody in town. She serves in particular on a number of the hiring committees, which I think is important in kind of reinforcing that culture of teamwork, which is outside her normal kind of day-to-day responsibilities. So we will miss her.
I'm not losing just a COA director, I'm losing an advocate and somebody that I lean on a daily basis, so this is a tough one.
I just, in the course of having to do, you know, some of my selectmen work, I had occasion a few days ago to go back and I was looking at some of our town finances and our credit reports, and, you know, I just, as I was reading it, I just wanted to read a couple of things, because I think sometimes, you know, we sort of talk about this AAA bond rating and what does it mean, but this is actually, it's a report from Moody's Investor Services, and it was dated April 25th, 2018, and it speaks to the town's AAA bond rating, and it says, Hingham's credit position is exceptional, and its AAA rating far surpasses the median rating of AAAs for cities nationwide. The key credit factors include a very strong financial position, a very strong wealth and income profile, and a large tax base. The credit position also reflects an affordable debt burden and a mid-ranged pension liability. And, you know, you think we just took our last budget votes, and this is the budget, folks. This is what $108 million look like. And it's not just the numbers in this, it's a reflection of the management, the decisions, the quality of people like Barbara Farnsworth and Roger and Harry and Chief Murphy, Chief Olson. And this rating here is about this, but it's mostly about the people who really do all this work. And I think sometimes in the throes of the budget, we can, myself included, get kind of caught up in the numbers or different things. And I was grateful to have an opportunity to sort of look back and see how is our community viewed from the outside. And I think this is a source of pride that we all share. And I know it's been a lot of late hours with all of the business of the town. This is the busy time of year. But I think on reflection, to me, the AAA bond rating is a signal that we do this all very, very well. And it was a shot in the arm for me to read it the other night when I was tired, so I thank you for the opportunity to share it.
Ladies and gentlemen, primarily reaching out to the folks at home watching. You know, tonight we heard a presentation from the gas company as well as our town engineer and Harry Sylvester, who knows more about what's underneath the surface of these streets than anybody in this town. But I really want you to just focus on something that they said here, that there is a 100-year-old water main that is over a mile long under East Street. And, you know, while Roger and Harry are proud of the fact that we are aggressively upgrading our gas line, the invitation to the water company to come out and at the very least inspect this 100-year-old pipe seems to have gone unanswered. And Harry, who spends most of his time on this project at night, reported not seeing them out there. This is the kind of thing that we've been talking about in these public forums, the importance of maintaining the infrastructure, upgrading the infrastructure. We've got a 100-year-old 20-inch water main with material that hasn't been used in over 40 years in the industry practice. It's inevitable that it's going to break, and I don't mean to suggest that any roadway built in this town should last as long as the Appian Way. But this is what we're looking to speak to. This is part of the message that we're trying to get across to the town. And last night, when we were seated at the advisory committee and we listened to the president of the water company speak about how he felt he was being, or the company was being maligned unfairly on social media, it just struck me as ironic that the energy would be focused on that as opposed to getting their engineer out and looking at these roads while they were open. Cutting out a road is more than just lifting pavement, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of the roadway is what you don't see, the subsurface construction, the gravel that's underneath it, the compaction that goes into it. On Old Colony Hill, on Summer Street, the reverse serpentine curve, which led to so many accidents with injuries, is in part due to the compaction problems of the roadway. You open up a roadway, you compromise the compaction, no matter how good you are at backfilling it with the right material, the gravel, compacting it down, it's not the same. So, I'm happy that we're replacing the gas main. I'm disappointed once again that, the water company is out of the loop. That's the problem. If, this was within the town's control, the reality is that the kind of maintenance that we'd be doing would be far more robust than it is now. So, I know this is a subject of debate. I know there are people in the audience tonight that are sitting in this room that feel differently than I do. We continue to discuss this. We continue to debate it. I anticipate tomorrow night that the advisory committee will take a vote. Mary, Karen, and I have attended these meetings. We're going to be out 4 nights this week in public meetings. We have other meetings on top of that. This is turning into a full-time job for us, whether we like it or not. But just look at the real message that we're trying to deliver to you here in real terms. How much are you going to enjoy being rerouted for 3 or 4 months? At night when you travel down 228. Do you want to go through that again because there's a broken water main that could have been avoided? Food for thought. Food for thought. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Good night.